by this, rather than what President Trump is doing with the Abraham Accords, where he's saying every nation has a right to exist. Israel, the Arab nations, Muslim countries, but what do they have in common? The desire for economic development and peace and stability. And by the way, maybe you can run your own oil operations. How does the empire look at it? Oh no, we don't want peace. We want to constantly be moving the pieces on the chessboard, keeping it in conflict, and then we're the puppet masters at the top, and we're controlling the world financial system through our central banks. We're controlling trade flows because we run the insurance market and the derivatives and the futures markets. And, we control these operations on the ground in order to make this business model continue to work. Donald Trump is saying, no, we're not playing that game any longer. And Iran and what it has represented is one of the final pieces of the chessboard that President Trump is taking off the board. But I will just add one other thing. He's doing it very carefully. He's trying to follow the Venezuela model, where you don't destroy the country, where you actually lay the basis for something to emerge which will be stable and which we will be able to work with here in the United States, which is not the regime change policy of either the British or John Bolton.
That's certainly right, and also there's a big question mark about who actually is running the country. I mean, we so far have word about the Ayatollah. We have cardboard cutouts of him being paraded around. We're not entirely sure if that's for real, but it's all moving very fast. Susan Kokinda, thank you so much. You make some very compelling points, as always. Coming up, if two guys in hoodies can walk onto Fort Campbell and steal 4 AI-powered military drones, what else could they be walking off with? Military strategist Darren Gaub joins us next.
My God, I didn't know nothing about that. Fort Campbell, walk right in. Do what? You got to be kidding me. My God. Lords of London and all them other very, very witty, powerful people are soon to wake up to a brand new environment. Especially if Britain don't get its act together regarding what's going on right now over in the Middle East. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Comfort and convenience. But where he stands at times of challenge and controversy.
The only thing I know to do at this point
This is
in time
One America News. Your nation
is to pray and to continue to pray
with,
and to pray again and pray 1,000 times again for our great nation, America.
And a realism in the sense of the
we're just going to have to just stick together on this. If not, we don't have a snowball chance. And you know what? Because the forces at bay right now are intertwingling with stuff that goes beyond what actually was created after World War II, much less what started during the 1920s. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Before World War II come home to us pertaining to Pearl Harbor, there was a movement in the teens and in the 20s towards people coming over here towards being Nazi sympathizers. And that whole concept was to brainwash or open the door up for somebody like Hitler to come forth that, according to some of the statistics that I've looked at, between Hitler and between Lepone, basically was the two antichrists, and there's supposed to be one final antichrist to come onto the scene.
walking onto Fort Campbell, Kentucky last November and casually stealing 4 advanced AI-powered
Last
military
November.
drones
I didn't know nothing about
out of
this.
an Army engineering building. If you or I lose our luggage at the airport, it's a federal crisis. But when the 101st Airborne Division loses over $100,000 in restricted military hardware, they quietly wait 4 months before finally asking the public for help. Between November 21st and 24th of last year, suspects breached the 326th Division Engineer Battalion and walked off with 4 Skydio X-10D drones. These are not toys you buy at the mall. These are highly restricted defense-grade platforms equipped with thermal imaging, autonomous flight capabilities, and designed specifically for battlefield reconnaissance. The Army Criminal Investigation Division finally released surveillance photos this week, dangling a meager $5,000 reward. The good news, thanks to public tips, the Army announced today that they have finally identified the 2 suspects. The bad news, as of this morning, those 4 military drones are still completely unaccounted for. The Army insists there is no threat to the public because the drones are not armed with weapons, but if 2 unidentified guys in a pickup truck can easily breach an Army installation, steal advanced military tech, and vanish for a third of a year, maybe the immediate threat isn't the drones themselves. Maybe it's the staggering incompetence of our security systems.
Yes.
Joining us now is retired Lieutenant Colonel and international military strategist Darren Gobb. Darren, I am a little bothered by the government's kind of hand, kind of waving the hand, saying no need to worry. These are only camera drones. They're not equipped with weapons. I think that's a little perturbing to me. I think they're still capable of
naive.
dangerous things, aren't they?
Well, they're certainly capable of doing something, Chanel, and I think with the systems that are on board those aircraft, it doesn't take much to use a drone in a way that can disturb things in a negative way. So let's look at how recently major airspace was shut down in Texas due to a drone flight. That's all it takes for someone to use even something as small as these drones to create some havoc somewhere if they really wanted to. Thermal imaging, you never know what they're going to use those for either. Now, I've been through this personally as a commander in the past on Fort Carson, Colorado, where there was a theft ring. People stealing things in order to sell them and, of course, just make money. And in some cases, these things are purely for that reason. Sell them and make money. Sometimes it's to steal a toy, basically, and use them. And both of these are concerning. But worst case scenario in some cases also is the fact that these can be used for sometimes drug cartel work and other things, the gang activity. So
Exactly.
You've rightly identified the security procedures and flaws themselves are something that needs to be addressed regardless of base, regardless of organization, and of course, regardless of value of the material. These should never be stolen in the first place. I'm glad they found the people. I'd be concerned with that.
Well, it looks like they've identified them, but my question also is, I guess we don't have enough information at this moment, whether they're civilians or service members. If they're service members, we should have been able to discern fairly quickly who these people were, but it took a long time to really come to an answer. And it wasn't even until a public announcement asking for the public's help that we seem to have gotten our answer. So that seems deeply disconcerting.
It does. I mean, when you look at those pictures, my first impression was the best thing in the world for law enforcement agents is dumb criminals who expose a lot of their faces that can be, and you can tell who they are to a certain point when you try hard enough. It's typical that these things try to get resolved internally as much as possible before public's assistance is requested. But in this case,
Right.
Of course, the assistance was critical to snagging these guys. So I think that's also important to know that the public was paying attention and actually helped in this case. They may have been soldiers, they may not have.
We need to know right now if those was the same individuals that was over by Humphreys County this past probably long about, I'm going to say October. maybe a little bit before, of some individuals that was caught spying on the ammunition compound over there that blowed up. It killed, I think, 17 or 18 people, because I know for a fact that I come into contact with an individual that owns the majority of the property in behind that I'm going to call it a compound, ammunition's manufacturing plant, that had spotted those guys and asked them what was they doing, and they said that they had purchased a piece of property over in that area, knowing good and well that they didn't purchase the property because there's only like 2 people that owns all the property back over there in behind the ammunition plant that blowed up and killed about 17 people. I think it was in December, maybe in November or December, somewhere like that, in 2026 or 2025, excuse me, last year. Now that I'm finding out about these drones, was the incident that happened in Humphreys County, Tennessee, that killed 17 or 18 people, was that truly accidental? Or was somebody spying in on some of our hardware over here and could have possibly caused it to be intentional but looked like it was accidental? You know, I'm in large debate, and I think the majority of the American people are too as well. Whenever you have a spy balloon fly over, and it basically comes all the way across America before anybody has the intelligence of knocking it out of the sky, knowing that it's not one of ours. There ain't no telling how much information that something like that can gather up, that can send that back to the adversary, and our adversary will know just exactly where these strategic targets are. That way, if something ever does unfold, God forbid if it does, they'll know exactly where to hit and where to weaken our defenses at. I want to know about these drones. I want to know about
it. And it's only a matter of time before drones are used in some way, maybe even a large capacity. Remind yourself of New Jersey when larger drones were out there.
Right.
Our grids, our water supplies, there's a lot of things that are vulnerable to a drone flown from a distance. I've highlighted this personally to the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security back in 2010. And I think some of that message was heard, but I'm living through the proof of what I predicted right now.
Yep.
Do these
me and you alike, sir.
Me and you alike. At all?
They can. Batteries leave heat markers. There are those who are powered by different systems. You start getting up into the transcontinental style drones that the Air Force flies. Those are just jets without pilots, so they leave heat markers. The smaller ones are extraordinarily difficult to find using that, but they tend to also have electromagnetic tethers to a controller. If they don't have that, what we're learning in Ukraine is they fly them with fiber optic cables, so they can't be hacked and controlled. And so you'll see forests covered in fiber optic cables going back and forth between Russian and Ukrainian lines. So drones are defining much of the future of warfare. And that's not just flying, that's under the water and on land. So we're watching this develop very quickly, and there's a lot of lessons we need to learn very quickly if we haven't already.
Wow. And it looks increasingly like the winners of future conflicts will be those who have the best hackers, given how much our defense industries are relying on.
You take, like an individual was talking the other day about taking just a hand grenade and attaching it to a drone that basically is activated off of impact. And you take that drone I'm hypothetically speaking here, and you pile drive it off into a country well that usually stands up into the sky, give or take about 250 foot, 200 foot or whatever. That's a big round ball or circle ball filled full of water. Do you realize what that could do? to that whole town or to that whole region that depends upon that water? It would be devastating. Or take a drone and fly it into a high cable, electrical cable, where you get your big towers and stuff going across different areas that carries probably hundreds of thousands of watts of electricity. I mean, if somebody simultaneously done that in a coordinated effort towards the East Coast, Central Time, the other side of the Mississippi, Mountain Time, and then Western Time, I mean, they could absolutely devastate our nation. Or, better than that, hit our communications pertaining to the towers. These drones, whoever created them, whoever manufactured them, whoever didn't license them, whoever is not governing these drones, I realize that they can be used in a very, very developing, good way, but at the same time, they can actually be used in a very, very devastating, lethal way if they're in the hands of the wrong people doing the wrong things. And I'm sitting here debating on the Bible where it talks about that these and of course when it says that these inventions or whatever come out of the earth, that doesn't necessarily mean it come directly out of the earth. It means that it could have come from the earth, come out of the earth, that had the sting of 7 times stronger than a scorpion, pertaining to it being lethal. Could that not actually be drones that the Bible talks about in Revelations, pertaining to the end time events where Satan is going to come down in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short? Friends, if there's ever been a time that we needed to unite and come together in a security type form, and I'm just not talking about community organizers, I'm talking about well-developed minds that can put out the warnings and advisories in educating the people in what to look for, where to look for, when to look for, etc., because this could actually be the survival of our great nation if we don't do these things. You know, 9/11 was very, very short-lived. 9/11 was very short-lived. It was only lived for probably about 5 years when it come to people really being on their toes, and then all of a sudden people started becoming lax. More and more churches started becoming emptied. That at one time, you know, resignated basically a revival shortly after 9/11. Within just a few days after 9/11, people was buying guns, people was going to churches, people was coming together, people was talking, people was debating, people was looking at different things. After about 4 or 5 years, that started dying out. After about 10 years, it already had died out. Now, we're 25 years into 9/11. Now, look what has been developed since then. Look what has been developed since 1988 pertaining to the manufacturing of all these gizmos and gadgets that can be used as instruments of war versus instruments to bring the people together.
Blood shedding of thousands of Iranians. But this time, we've a very different scenario. Iran's system was built around a supreme leader holding final authority over the military, the courts, and the Revolutionary Guard. But reports indicate the government may currently be operating through a network of security officials and guard commanders, even as questions continue about who is directing strategy from the very top. A message attributed to Iran's new supreme leader has now been released. CNN did the honor of broadcasting all 4 minutes uninterrupted as read from Iranian state television.
Mojtaba Khamenei, the leader of the Islamic Republic, in their first public speech addressing the great nation of Iran and the brave fighters of Iran, the fatalities, those who were injured, and also they addressed the leaders of some neighboring countries.
The message promised that the war will continue and that Iran will keep pressuring shipping routes, including the Strait of Hormuz. It was delivered in written form through state media rather than through a public appearance, which has only deepened questions about who is actually speaking for the regime. Much of the speculation centers on the aforementioned Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Iran's supreme leader and a figure long associated with the Revolutionary Guard's inner circle. Reports indicate he was injured during the current conflict and has not been seen publicly. His name has been linked to succession inside the Islamic Republic for years, but leadership uncertainty also raises a different question. Whether opposition networks inside Iran could try to exploit a moment like this.
You know they will.
Image has also been strange. A written message attributed to Ayatollah Khomeini was released while a life-size cardboard image cutout of the supreme leader was displayed at a public event. A government built around personal authority is projecting symbols and statements rather than a leader addressing the public directly. Meanwhile, Iran is still projecting force beyond its borders. Iranian drone boats have targeted commercial shipping, including a U.S.-owned oil tanker. Those attacks show the regime can continue military operations somehow, even while its internal power structure appears uncertain. And that tension between external war and internal dissent is exactly what many opposition figures have been watching. So an information war is also playing out alongside this military one. A fake video claiming to show Donald Trump and Iran's supreme leader has been spread online, an example of how digital propaganda is now part of modern geopolitical conflict.
Psychological warfare.
Our next guest is an Iranian-born author, activist who founded the Atheist Republic movement and built an international network advocating for secular government and freedom of expression for people living under religious authoritarian rule. Armin Navabi joins us now. Armin, thank you so much for the time. First off, answer this question as best you can from your perspective. Where is the resistance and how are they? How are they reacting here?
The resistance is ready for the command and call to action by Princes of Pahlavi. They have been told right now to stay at home and don't come outside. And we're getting the same message from Princes of Pahlavi, President Trump, and Prime Minister Netanyahu. This plan has been, from the very beginning, it has been so that the American and Israeli-led military operations remove the suppressing power of the Islamic Republic. And the whole plan from day one is to give the Iranian people an opportunity to take back the country. I do have to also mention that I speak on behalf of many Iranians that we are so grateful. I'm constantly in touch with the people inside Iran, and one thing that they ask me to mention every chance that I get is to show how grateful they are to President Trump and the American servicemen and women involved in this military operation. And so many Iranians, especially Iranians outside of Iran who get to speak freely, are giving their condolences and holding the pictures of the American men and women who fell in this battle, and they are showing a lot of respect and condolences. And I just can't tell you how much Iranian people right now inside Iran absolutely love President Trump for doing this. And I think the whole world needs to see that.
And we can't see that because currently, for some reason, for some remarkable reason, the Iranian regime has been able to just hold on. They're holding on by their fingernails, but they're still there, parading their cardboard figures. So do you think that the Ayatollah is in fact dead or so injured he can't actually come forward? What do you think is actually happening within the leadership structure inside the IRGC?
So I think there's a lot of division right now. There's a lot of infighting. We don't know yet if the Mojtaba Khamenei is alive or dead, but he is somewhat irrelevant right now. IRGC has full control. A lot of people outside of Iran don't know that a coup has taken place. The IRGC has been waiting for a moment where the power gets for the transition of power from the office of the supreme leadership to IRGC to be complete. And now, whether Mojtaba is alive or dead, that message that you read from Mojtaba Khamenei, every single line of that has been written by IRGC. Even if he's alive, he's now a puppet of IRGC, and the IRGC IRGC has full control. But the thing, something that people need to realize regarding the IRGC is that IRGC is fragmented and there's division among them right now as well. Because of the power vacuum, the division makes them weak. And talking about division, the Iranian people have never been more united. So the Iranian people against the Islamic Republic, and this is the beauty of these operations, because the Iranian people, the Israelis, and the Americans all have a mutual enemy, which is the Islamic Republic. And the Iranian people, under the leadership of Prince Reza Pahlavi, they become very united, and all of the infighting that the opposition had before is now nowhere to be seen. So we're right now at a situation where the Islamic Republic, the IRGC, I follow their channels, I follow the content, I follow their YouTube videos, their Aparat videos, their Telegram channels. They have never been this divided. So this makes them very weaker. So this is actually the number one fear of the Islamic Republic. You're talking about the cardboard cutout, all the propaganda. The reason for all of that is because the Islamic Republic, more than the American and Israeli bombardments, more than even the Iranian people coming into the streets, the number one fear they have is their own people turning against them. That's why they need the propaganda. That's why they constantly need to lie about taking down F-35, sinking the USS Abraham Lincoln, talking about Tel Aviv being completely blown into dust. They always say that because they need their own followers to think that they're strong, and this is why humiliating them and making fun of them is part of this war, because the more they're humiliated, the more their supporters get disappointed, and the more we get closer to the fall of the Islamic Republic. Image is saving face, and image is part of this warfare right now for the Islamic Republic.
Trying to break the morale of the people is what you're trying to do. And the fact of the matter is, it is psychological warfare, and those, by and large, a great deal of those people are weak-minded people that can't think for themselves, and they know this, and because of it, they are going to target those people in trying to brainwash them that much further that the Iranian regime is still in power, and they're doing well towards defeating the enemy, which is supposedly us, because they've always called us the great Satan, and the whole time it's been them over there that's been the great Satan that's wanted to basically manipulate the world and hold the world under hostage, the same as somebody like Adolf Hitler done.
And American drones to do their job. So the plan right now is to, because we saw the Iranian people, the brave Iranian people in early January,
yes,
they came out in the millions and they were killed in the tens of thousands.
They were punished.
Even after, they were punished for it, but even after that, 40 days after, they came back again and they still said Javid Shah and Pahlavi will return. So they showed that they have been brave, but right now they've been told by their leader, by the leader of the revolution, by the leader of the Lion and Sun Revolution, that right now they need to stay home, and that's what they're doing, okay? Because they're trying to make sure
that way they won't unite.
The casualty numbers. They're trying to reduce the loss of human.
That's what they're saying, but in reality, they don't want them to unite because they've cut off the internet and etc. They don't want them to unite.
The of the Iranian people is way too high, because it doesn't take that many people with guns to shoot into crowds of people, and because the Iranian people, even though they're very high in number, they're unarmed, and the IRGC and the Basijis are armed, and we also now have reports that the IRGC is giving guns to civilians, the minority civilian support that they have. They're just passing guns to them, even to children. 14-year-old kids are getting AK-47s because they know they don't have enough manpower, and they know that
it's a suicide sickness going on right now all over there. It is so sad. It is so horrific.
Drones to reduce their suppressing power as much as possible before Prince Reza Pahlavi gives the command for them to come outside.
It's going to be an incredible sea change if that regime is finally to topple. I mean, there's so much more to ask you, but we're out of time. Thank you so much for the analysis.
It's nothing but a free for all.
Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, and I also just want to say I look forward for Iran. The Iranian people and the American people are already allies, but I can't wait for the day for our states to be allies again one day.
Absolutely.
I mean, thank you. Coming up, the one and only Alex Stein takes us
where the Iranian regime has cut their own throats. And I've said before, I'm kind of glad in a way that they've done this, is by attacking all their neighbors pertaining to their brotherhood. Even though we may have had bases lined up there at first, people like Saudi Arabia and other countries, they didn't want to participate in this raid that the American and Israelis participated in, because they wanted to remain neutral. Well, they remained neutral and not participate, but they still got punished anyway. So there you go there. Now people around Iran is seeing just exactly what kind of dirty, evil, demonic, cruel, insensitive people that they truly are.
Enemy ship of World War II.
I mean, it's chaos over there right now. I would hate to know that I was overseas anywhere. It didn't matter if it was in Jerusalem, Israel, or anywhere. Your safest place as Americans are right here. Don't go to Mexico. Don't go to Cancun. Don't go to other parts of South America or other parts of the world right now. Stay at home. Remain vigilant. Remain united. Please. We need strong unification and leadership right now in every department, in every area, in every community here in America. This is serious. This is very, very serious. I don't think it has been as serious ever since 9/11, 25 years ago. And it seems like history always has a way of repeating itself again and again and again. Once more, you know, if you was going to, pertaining to the Midnight Hammer, if you was going to go over and kick the hornet's nest over there, you should have went ahead and ended it in a much better form or fashion. I mean, they want to point their finger at Biden, pretend to how that he got out of Afghanistan, which I agree. It was very, very inappropriate. It was very, very unprofessional towards cutting and running the way that they did. God only knows how many innocent lives got affected by that. God only knows. But this is just as bad. Whenever you go into something like this blindsided and you don't sit down and do the equation of well, it's going to, you know, it's going to affect this, it's going to affect this, you know, for every action requires a reaction, and bad, poor leadership over here in America pertaining to our Pentagon and our CIA agents that obviously didn't steer the president correctly, or either the president didn't listen to the advisors that was giving him advice and his cabinet members. I don't know which, but either or, this is a bad, bad situation that's going to affect not thousands, not millions, but billions of people's lives all over the planet. Not just in America, but all over the planet. Please, please. This is the time for prayer. This is the time for meditation. This is the time for serious-minded thinkers to come together and realize what we're up against here. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our American troops. God bless our endeavors towards which way that we go from this moment on. I cannot say that enough times in enough different ways, in enough different languages, again and again and again.
Here are some other headlines from around the globe. In Cuba, violent protests have erupted as blackouts and a fuel crisis pushed public frustration higher. Protesters attacked a local Communist Party office. It's the most serious unrest the island has seen in months. In Nepal, a bus plunged off a mountain road and into a ravine, killing at least 7 people and injuring 9 others. Authorities say most of the passengers were Hindu pilgrims. In North Korea, Kim Jong-un made a rare public appearance with his teenage daughter to watch a live fire test of rocket launch systems. In Vietnam, millions of people voted today in an election for a new National Assembly, but the process is closely controlled under Vietnam's one-party communist system. And in Spain, Madrid turned green for its San Patricio parade, with thousands filling the streets to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And that's a look at some stories from around the globe. While many
want to say to my viewers, happy St. Patrick's Day, pertaining to the Irish in their contributions to America, especially in the 1800s and early 1900s, pertaining to their labor and their skill and their art and their historical building abilities to be able to do things that we should be thankful for in recognizing St. Patrick's Day in that form and fashion. Once again, just want to say God bless America, and may God have mercy on all of us. And shalom.